Today, I'd like to share some data-driven community of practice building experience, especially with the inner source journey of Huawei. Actually, I spent a lot of time on the open source world, but recently I try my best to bring some open source experience inside of the company. Um, Let me introduce myself. I'm Willem Jiang. I'm open source expert of the Huawei, and I'm also a board of director of Apache Software Foundation. Now I'm a mentor of Huawei InnerSource Foundation. We initiate the InnerSource pilot project since 2014. There's some achievements we have. Switch from SVN to Git, and there's about 5,000 project repo hosted in our internal code platform, and we all open up about 1 billion lines of codes. If you look at the numbers, it looks good and even impressive, but it's hard to build a community of practice, especially the inner source community in a collaborative environment. And some developer always say they are too tired to maintain their project by themselves. So we spend some time to think deep about the inner source. Before we move to the inner source 2.0, let's have a look at the definition of the inner source from the Wikipedia. Inner source is the use of the open source software development best practice and the establishment of the open source like the culture within the organization. In this way, we need to learn the open source first. The open source way is characterized by openness and transparency, collaboration, peer review, meritocracy. These features are best present in the open source community. As the open source community is a group of people interact and share ideas, code, and documentations, we are working together virtually in our open source on open source software as a developer, user, evangelist, marketer, sales people, investors. The people of community also share the knowledge through our official mentoring of all the peer reviewing. We can see the knowledge is produced by mentor and consumer with mentee. The knowledge is passed in a single way in the open source world. If we take a deep look about the InnerSource 2.0, we take some example from the Apache Software Foundation. And we started the InnerSource 2.0 3 years ago, and it's mainly focused on the community side. As Apache way, aka community overcode, we need to build a community around the InnerSource project. But what kind of community we want to build? How can I convince my colleagues to join this kind of community? Here, I'd like to share a book of Adna Winger's Cultivating a Community of Practice. In my opinion, the greatest attraction of the open source community is that it's really on the internet to establish an effective system of knowledge sharing and creation, so that we can collaborate effectively. Each of us can innovate it based on others and merge the individual knowledge into a collaborative wisdom. So what we learned from the InnerSource 2.0, we summarize these 4 key points after talk the people who got involved in the InnerSource 2.1.2.0, and now we try to address address them in our InnerSource 2.0, and let me explain them one by one. First is knowledge sharing. In the InnerSource 1.0, we only think about open the code and don't share the background of the knowledge about the code, such as the README file is too simple, as this is a book without any words. So we start the template project to help the InnerSource project set up, and we also provide how to document on the project wiki pages. As this template project is using many InnerSource project, we are running it as InnerSource project now. By sharing knowledge, we can lower the people's barrier to join in. Now we are using Issue to track the InnerSource related questions and keep updates how to document based on the feedback, and encourage others to send merge requests if they find any errors and or have any good ideas. And from the data collecting side, we need to monitor the interactions between the developers and to see how the knowledge is spread out. The second is the people over tools. In the InnerSource 1.0, we built our social code platforms, which based on the GitLab. Anyone can create a Git repo on this platform. We only provide a training session of Git, but we don't know how to use these tools in the open source way. So now we're running an OpenX project to provide a community portal service, which includes a mailing list, GitLab, wiki, and VLink, the internal IAM system we use. We encourage people to interact and share ideas, code or documentations. We'll work together virtually. This service helps help people to build the social fabric of learning, which include the people who want to learn, share, and engage with others. If we can monitor the usage of these tools, we can get the general ideas how well the community is running. Especially for the developer project development, we can know how well the project is moving on, and we pay a lot of attention on the interactions between the people, especially the discussion and participating or the wiki document popularities. The third is collaborations over sharing. It's easy if we just open up the developer code to share the knowledge, but it takes time and efforts to bring a contributor on board. So we need to give them a good reason to join the project, lower the barrier of contribution, help the newbie to understand the context of project through the code review. The community of practice just give us a way. It's a group of people who share our concern and a set of programs or are passionate about the topic, and who deepen their knowledge and experience in these areas by interacting on a going base. The community of practice is composed by 3 parts: the domain, the practice and the community that bring people together. I will explain the domain and practice later. Domain just give the people together to bring people together to discuss a topic of a mutual interest, learn from each other, and grow together. Domain make everyone actions valuable. Domain create a sense of community. A common domain inspires a sense of responsibility of knowledge and developer practice. Helping finding a domain we all care about makes build a community of practice easier. It's not easier for us to build a community around a particular of inner source project, but it's much easier for us to find a common domain of the that's most of the people want to involved. Currently, we set up SIG on certain kinds of technologies to attract more people. And we can know the community status by tracking these SIG's activities and interactions in the OpenX portal. And it gives us a lot of feedback on the community building side. People's manage code through Git, discussing issues through the mailing list, Jira, or the GitHub issues. A code review can pass on the knowledge about the code development, and wiki, and we use wiki to share the documentations. Practice based on these tools, errors, participations allows participants to share their knowledge while interacting with each other to speak about new ideas through the practice to continue to deepen their knowledge and understand the specific areas related to the projects, and that's enhance their professional capabilities. The fourth community health first. It's easiest to get sum up from the InnerSource project. And if we just take a favor of our colleagues, and we might be happy about that members, but it doesn't bring real interactions of the collaboration. So we need to think about the metrics which can bring real substantial, can bring a real ability to the InnerSource project. So we take lessons from the InnerSource common. There's a pattern called a maturity model, and this is the InnerSource maturity model. And it's very useful to help us to set up a common understanding of the InnerSource. We can monitor the status of the project with transparency, collaborations, community health, and governance level. And we built a dashboard to collecting the transparency, collaborations, and community data automatically, and using a survey and self-assessment to help InnerSource project to set up goals for the further development. To summarize this presentation, we have 3 takeaways. The first one is InnerSource is learned from the open source. And community overcodes is the core principle of our InnerSource 2.0. And data helps us find a way. If we can use that kind of data, could help us to build the community of practice more easily. And that is my presentation. Thanks all.